Hi, this is Bobby Kimbrough, and welcome to Off the Cuffs. I'm excited once again. I have a friend of mine, known for 100 years, just a little fun, Captain Cardwell. I want to welcome you to Off the Cuffs. Captain Cardwell with the Winston-Salem Police Department. I want to welcome you to Off the Cuffs.
Thank you, Sheriff. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure's mine. So, I've known you for quite some time. How long have you been in law enforcement?
I started out in 1993, so
Wow.
a little over 28 years.
Wow. You're getting old, man.
I'm getting old.
Yeah. I remember when you just was starting out. Now here you are, Captain, running. So, we're here to talk about this drug task force that was created here in the county. A lot of buzz about it, a lot of people talking about it on the streets and the media. And I thought that we have you in here to give firsthand information. A lot of times people hear information and they put their own spin on it, and then somebody else puts a spin on it. And before you realize it's something that was never has any truth to it. So I thought we have you in here and get firsthand information on it. Tell me something. And I may ask a question you can't answer. You can tell me it's classified, whatever you want to tell me. But anyway, about how long has the unit been up and running?
So fully functional, really since about the middle of December, but January 1st was when we really started blending and the groups were able to work together. Logistically, the planning and just everything that goes into forming this task force, it takes a lot of work behind the scenes to make it happen. So
let me ask you a question. Let me just back up for a second. In your 20 plus years, have you seen a difference in the type of investigations, the type of crimes, the intensity, the violence since you began your career?
So as a young officer starting out in 1993, crack cocaine was really what was out on the streets. A lot of violence there, but a lot of good police work was able to slow down that violence, kind of get it manageable. But over the last few years, its violence has gone back up, and I think we've seen drugs also increase. Just the use of drugs, the type of drugs on the streets, really the organized effort to distribute drugs, and the violence that goes along with that as well.
So you're saying the dealers are more organized than they were back in the day?
With communication like it is now, in the 90s, you might know a street corner that somebody would go to buy drugs. You just couldn't communicate with cell phones and apps that we can now. It's just easier to organize and to get together and work as a group versus as an individual.
Okay.
And that's important with the task force, and that's where we looked at it. We talked about organizing law enforcement in Forsyth County, working together, and the worker bees always worked well together. All three agencies worked well, but unfortunately, over the years, the leadership just could never get it together to make it happen. It's really the leadership we have now with the Sheriff Department, with you, Sheriff, and with Chief Thompson and Chief Summers, that you guys would come together and give us the support to make this task force happen. We need to be organized just like the criminals are out there distributing the drugs and doing harm.
Wow. I know you run things out there. I know it's a pretty large operation out there. What's that like to have, we talk about the energy, the synergy, the manpower. A lot of questions that I've been asked, are you guys out there just profiling people? You guys out there on the side of the road? Somebody goes down 40 or 52 and say, hey, let's go get them. I mean, I know, I hope, and I know for a fact you're not doing that. But tell me, what kind of cases do you guys work over there?
So let me start out by saying, it's my privilege and honor to even work with the men and women that are part of this task force. I mean, they are exceptional and extraordinary individuals. They're dedicated. They work endless hours, and they're dedicated to identifying these drug organizations. It's just a complete pleasure. But for us, our goal is to identify these trafficking organizations. So we want to get the suppliers of the community, the predators that are bringing in these drugs. They don't care about the harm. They only care about making a dollar. They don't care about breaking up the families. They don't care about the damage that they do to this community. So our focus is on those traffickers. So it's important that we have a working relationship not only here in the county with our three agencies, but also with our state partners and our federal partners. Information is key to the way we do investigations. The majority of our cases come in from tips, whether it's a tip line or Crime Stoppers or through some other method. But a lot of it comes in from the community calling us anonymously, giving us a starter point. Then the investigators get assigned those cases, and they work hard, just good old-fashioned law enforcement work, investigating, finding out information, following leads to develop a case. I know the movies make it pretty fancy with technology, but really it's the hours, the workforce is put in, the dedication that the women and men have to
Yeah,
to
1
make
hour
these
the
cases
case
happen.
is solved and done, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's TV, yeah. So, like most of the people that live in this community, it seems like every day, every other day, and sometimes twice a day, someone is shot. The violence, the homicides, just the damage, the injury to not only property but to people, persons. Would you attribute that to the drug trade? I mean, what do you attribute? Like you and I were talking offline that, we try to manage what's going on, and then all of a sudden the uptick in violence starts to tick again. Do you think that it has something to do with the drug trade?
Well, I think it has part of it. I mean, the drug trade and drugs and violence, and we know historically just they go hand in hand, unfortunately. Where you see an increase in drugs, a lot of times you'll see that increase of violence, specifically gun violence.
Yeah.
But I think we need to recognize also that it's more than just a law enforcement approach when it comes to this, whether it's the drugs with overdose deaths or the violence just where there's fractions having fight with each other, different groups fighting over territory. We need to look at the root cause of it. We need to look at the education. Why are these predominantly young men getting involved and pulled towards violence and towards the drug industry, whether they're users who get addicted to drugs or they go into distributing drugs. So it's important that we have partnerships not only just with law enforcement but also with our community members to try to get to these individuals before they're engaged in violence. I know that all of our agencies have community outreach programs with law enforcement. We work in partnership to try to help the youth go down the right path. Unfortunately, we just can't rest our way out of it. We've got to make sure we're investing in it on the front end as well.
I'm just looking back when you were talking. I was thinking about growing up and and how the drug trafficking has changed and how the use of drugs have went from back in the day a guy smoking a joint or weed or whatever they call it to a guy using cocaine, now crack, then heroin. What type of drugs are you guys seeing out there on the streets now?
So fentanyl is probably the drug we're seeing the most.
Wow.
Fentanyl, very powerful. A lot of our—
When you say powerful, is that the same thing? Deadly? Is it deadly?
It's strong. Yes, it's deadly. It just doesn't take much of it to really push somebody into an overdose. Unfortunately, though, we also have the drug dealers that are predators here, bringing in fentanyl and mixing it with other drugs or other things out of their garage just to be able to have enough of something to sell to people. So it's a strong, powerful drug that probably is what leading to most of our overdoses here. We're seeing methamphetamine on the rise. Cocaine is starting to come back up more so than it was, but really fentanyl seems to be the drug right now that we're seeing most of.
Wow. What's the ages on a lot of the traffickers that you're seeing? Are they younger, older, middle age? My age, young age, about.
So in for the task force, for what we're focusing on was those traffickers that are bringing in the drugs. They're not community members. They're really just predators coming in our communities. Those are in their 20s and some older age, more in my age group, 40 and in that group. The gun violence, though, that we're seeing in Forsyth County, Winston-Salem specifically, you're seeing that younger. You're seeing young men, under 18, draw into firearms and that violence. It's unfortunate.
So you're saying that wherever you find the drug trade, you can find violence, you can find guns.
That's since my career. I mean, that's what I've seen.
I've always wondered where these young kids getting the guns from. Where are they getting them from? I mean, I've always asked myself that question.
So there's a couple of ways we're seeing, at least in this area, where guns are getting on the street: house break-ins and auto break-ins. Unfortunately, homeowners don't necessarily store their firearms the way that you really want to prevent a theft. Leaving it in your car in the glove box. Young people looking for guns know that, and they'll go to neighborhoods and they'll go through cars looking for guns. Once they're stolen, they're going to hit the market on the streets. Yeah. Another way you don't see it as much is we call them straw purchases. You've got a person who can legally buy a gun, right? And they go and buy a gun, and they know that they can sell it to someone who can't purchase it legally and at a profit. So identifying those individuals is important. Because they're just handing guns out. That's why we work with the ATF, with our partners with ATF, to work on cases like that, to identify the individuals that are pushing those guns out there.
So what do you see the benefit of this task force, the future of it, and how is it going to affect the community? Because anytime that we talk about law enforcement in the era that we're in now, people want to defund law enforcement. People want to do a lot of things with law enforcement. So if you could share something with the community, people that are watching, right, to ease their minds. I get the question asked me all the time, why do you need that? There are more things we could do in the community. Are you guys going to be out there just profiling people? Are you going to be doing this? Are you going to be doing that? And one of the things that I've often said is that this task force is not about profiling, sitting out on the side of the road, watching guys go up and down the street on 40 and 52. This task force is beyond that. It's at a whole different level, different spectrum. And so what do you see the future of the task force, and basically, are we making a difference?
I think you're going to see the impact. So we're starting into it and getting our bearings. We're starting to investigation. If you can look at the media release we pushed out recently for the first 3 months, we're just under $65 million in value of evidence and drugs and guns and assets for these organizations. A lot of these investigations are still ongoing. Working with our federal and state
partners. Can't say that number again, because somebody's going to say, did he say 65 million or 6,500?
It's just under 65 million. Just a little shy of 65 million.
That's an M.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But you're going to see that impact. I mean, the long-term goal, I will say, for the task force is to create an environment in Forsyth County that the drug organizations recognize is unprofitable here. We don't want to go to Forsyth County because they have the resources to identify us and prosecute us and seize our assets and seize our drugs. It's just not good business here. Because let's be direct.
So when you say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but when you say seize our assets, people don't understand that. What do you mean by that?
So the drug industry is all about making money, right? I mean, that's who we're after. These predators that are here to make money in this community. Now that's backtracking all the way to the cartels that are bringing these drugs across the borders, to the individuals that are trafficking it across states.
So you're saying we have footprint of the cartel operating in the Middle District?
We have the footprint of cartels all in this area, this region. I mean, they're sourcing these areas, and that's the goal here with this task force, is identifying those individuals involved in those organizations. We're trying to hit those predators. A user that's addicted. There are other programs that we need to work with to try to get them help to get them off of drugs. Our focus is on those predators, those individuals that are financially making the money that's here while they're here. Cutting off their finances, seizing their finances, working with our federal partners to identify bank accounts or even cash or houses, vehicles, things that are being purchased with this drug money to facilitate those crimes. It's important to take those tools away from them, those assets away from them. We may not be able to reach somebody outside of Forsyth County to make an arrest, but if we can make it so they don't want to bring their assets here because they know that we will seize it and keep it from them, then that's going to make them think twice about being here.
Wow. That's impressive. Those numbers are relatively strong. I saw them the other day float across my desk. 65 million. That's strong. That's strong. Question for you. Have we ever had a task force of this magnitude in this area doing those kind of numbers before?
No, not in my career. As I mentioned before,
you've been here 25 years, close
over
to 30.
28 years.
Yeah, close to 30.
I've spent about 10 years as a narcotics detective, a few years as a supervisor there. I've also been in our CID, homicide, robbery sections. But I can tell you that we've never been able to put together a task force like we have now, working under the leadership of the agencies that we have now. I don't think it would have happened if we didn't have you as a sheriff, Chief Thompson, and Chief Summers working together in partnership. We will do extraordinary things for the community in the long term. Impacting the flow of illegal drugs into our community is going to directly impact crime when it comes to the gun violence, with the other crimes that are associated with drugs. We should see tremendous impact.
Wow. Very impressive, very impressive. Tell me something. If you could leave us with any strong words of wisdom, advice as to information about this task force, anything you want to share with our viewers and our listeners, what would it be?
The important thing to remember is that we work hand in hand with the community. That the tips that come in, the anonymous tips to our tip lines, the Crime Stoppers, is really the basis of where we start an investigation. We need that community engagement and involvement. They see things and are aware of information that we may not know. And it's just important the community continue to contact us, reach out to us, even if they think, well, maybe that's not that big of a deal. Well, it may be the key piece of the puzzle we need to move forward with an investigation. So
what kind of jurisdiction do you guys have?
So predominantly, we are in the Forsyth County working as a task force, but we have membership with the federal bureaus here, working in partnership with task force officers, with our state partners also. So SBI, ALE with the state, but we work hand in hand with the FBI, DEA. Also with HSI, ATF.
Wow.
We have ongoing cases with all those federal partners.
I appreciate you coming by. So I got a question for you, right? So somebody want to send you a thank you card. Is that an address they can send you where the task force is? I just messed it. I'll clown you for a minute. Yeah, but you know what, man? I want you to know how much I appreciate your leadership over there. My guys tell me the fine job you're doing. I knew that, though, because I've known you for years. I want to publicly thank you for the work you've done over your 28 years in this community, the friendship that you've given me over the years. You're doing a phenomenal job, man. My guys tell me all the time, Lane, that you're doing an outstanding job over there. Keep up the good work you're doing. I know that the people of this county appreciate you because drugs impact our community in so many ways. It affects our children. It affects our young adults. It affects our old adults. It affects the economy here. Drugs affect every aspect of our life. And to have a group of men and women collectively fighting that effort, trying to stop the predatory behavior and trying to make this community better than it has been. And so I appreciate you, appreciate your leadership. Keep doing what you're doing. Stop by anytime to see us. You're welcome any day of the week. And as always, I love you, my brother, and keep doing what you're doing. Once again, this was Bobby Kimbrough and Off the Cuffs. Today I had with me Captain Cardwell from the WSPD and the commander of the Forsyth County Drug Task Force. Thanks again, my friend. from 65 million